My name is Greater, and this is the story of how my stepmom married me off to a madman. My mom left my dad when I was barely 6 years old. Dad raised me all by himself until I turned 17. Then he found love again with a widow who had 3 children, 2 boys, Dongila, who is 20, and Johnson, who is 22. The youngest, a girl, is my age. Dad didn't marry her because of the kids he married because he needed companionship. Though I wasn't fully in favor of the marriage, I pretended to be happy for Dad's sake. He had sacrificed so much for my happiness, and I wanted him to be content. Dad is often away on business trips, and when he's around, my stepmom treats me nicely. But as soon as he leaves, she takes away all my gadgets and treats me poorly, turning my life upside down. I woke up on the cold kitchen floor to the sound of my stepmother's stern command. Her children, Dungila and Akachi, approached me with menacing grins. Stepmother and Johnson stood by the door, their faces twisted in anger. Confused and still rubbing the sleep from my eyes, I sat up. Then I heard my stepmother's chilling words. Hold her down and remove her blouse. Let Johnson. Realization dawned on me. Johnson's true intentions became clear. Yesterday, while I was washing dishes, he grabbed me from behind, his hands clasping my developing breasts. I had fought back, slapping him and smashing a plate on his head. Though stepmom flogged me with a long cane filled with thorns, leaving several injuries on my body, after which she tied my and rubbed grounded pepper on the injured part. She warned me not to ever lay my hands on any of her children ever again. I thought it all ended yesterday, but little did I know. Leave me alone, I pleaded, but Dongila and Akachi pinned me to the ground. While Dongjila tore off my dress, paving way, "Shay, this is what you've been hiding from my brother Abi," Akachi said, slapping me hard on my cheek as hot tears roll off my eyes. I couldn't say much. Tears kept falling freely. I blamed Dad for not always listening to me each time I tried telling him how badly stepmom me. Johnson stepped forward and began folding my breasts roughly as if it's some sort of toy. He kept slapping my breasts and pinching it roughly. I felt so much pain. He placed his mouth on my breasts and bit my nipples hard. I let out a painful scream. Once he was satisfied, he kicked me hard on my stomach as they all left the kitchen. I couldn't help but to lay on the cold floor and cry. I cried for some hours and slept off. A few hours later, I felt a cold liquid splash across my body, jolting me awake. Opening my eyes, I realized I was soaked in cold water. I looked up and saw Akachi standing above me, arms crossed, an empty bucket in her hands. She had clearly dumped the water on me. "You're here sleeping while your suitors are waiting for you," she said, her voice dripping with mockery. "Suitors? What suitors?" I asked, confused. "Put this on and follow me to the living room." Now she demanded, tossing a gown at me. I slipped into the gown and followed her to the living room. What I saw left me completely dumbfounded. As we entered the living room, I saw a group of men gathered around. Some stood behind a man with a prominent belly. My stepmother sat on the couch, counting a large sum of money. "Gray, Omalika NWA. Oya, come and greet your husband-to-be," she beckoned, pointing to the pot-bellied man. I scoffed, incredulous. Why would she consider marrying me off to someone old enough to be my father or grandfather? I thought and sighed. "What are you standing there for? Come and greet your husband-to-be," she pressed. Everyone stared at me, while the pot-bellied man flashed a brown-toothed smile. "Come to Daddy," he said. I glared at him. "Dare you call yourself my daddy? Have you no shame? Wanting to marry someone as young as me?" My stepmother intervened. "What's gotten into you? Do you know who you're speaking to?" "Respect Chief Odumadu," she demanded. "Apologize immediately." I stood firm. "I've done nothing wrong. I spoke my mind. You have a daughter my age, why don't you marry her to Chief?" "Leave," I told the chief. "Over my dead body will I marry you," I said sternly to the so-called chief. I could see his face darkened. His smile is gone, but I don't care. Just then stepmom stood up and strode to me. You better behave yourself. Did you know how much Chief has paid me just to marry you? Now go apologize to him before I lose my temper on you," she whispered in my ear. Well, I had no choice, since it was just to apologize. And besides, I don't want any more beating from her. The one they did to me is still fresh in my body. I walked to the chief and knelt in front of him and apologized to him. "Get ready. Tomorrow I'll be taking you to my house," he said, staring lustfully at my breast, licking his lips. I stood up and headed inside the kitchen since my stepmom has denied me access to my personal room. A few hours later, stepmom emerged by the door, with a long kobo. "You are here crying while the chores are left undone, huh? Who did you think will do the chores for you?" she questioned with disdain. "But Mum, I did the chores in the early hours of the morning," I mumbled, wiping my moist nose. She walked up to me, pulling me by the ear and twisting it. "Who are you calling mother? Do I look like your PR0 mother that left you and your useless father for another man?" she asked, twisting my ears tightly. I could feel the burning sensation. Tears rolled over my eyes. "Answer me," she demanded. "No, ma," I answer. Good now. Go and wash Akachi's pants and iron her departmental dress. She has an afternoon class," she ordered. I stood up sluggishly about heading out when she held me by my hands, preventing me from moving further. "One more thing, Greater, for your information, Chief Odumodu will be coming to take you away tomorrow. Better be informed," she said, and I felt my heart twitch. "Over my dead body will I marry Chief Odumodu," I thought aloud. The later hours of the night, when everyone was fast asleep, I stood up and tiptoed to the living. I can't fold my hands and watch stepmom marry me off to an older man. At least I need to look for a cell phone to call my dad. I got to live, and luckily for me, the key was lying on the center table. I grabbed it and headed for the door. I was about to open the door when I heard a loud shout. "Mummy, everyone come out. Oh, this daughter of a PR0 is trying to escape," Akachi shouted, banging on her mother's door with increasing urgency. I fumbled with the keys, trying each one in the keyhole, hoping desperately that one would work. I was already in deep trouble, and the fear of being caught was making my hands shake. "God, please help me. I can't afford to get caught," I whispered, my voice trembling as I nervously twisted the next key in the lock. Akachi continued shouting, her fists pounding relentlessly on her mother's door. "Why do you stay here, disturbing people?" "Wetin happen?" Johnson grumbled, stepping out of his room, clearly annoyed. "Greater is trying to escape. Can't you see?" Akachi snapped. "Shoo. Let her escape now. No be wettin' you and Mumsy I want be that," Johnson replied nonchalantly, barely glancing my way as I continued working on the door. None of the keys seemed to fit. "You don't get it. If she escapes now, the chief won't buy me the car he promised. I need her to marry Chief," Akachi said, panic creeping into her voice. "Why you no marry the chief yourself?" "A beg, sift from the road make I see well," Johnson replied with a shrug, turning back toward his room, uninterested. Finally, I slid the last key into the lock, silently praying it would open. At that moment, stepmom and Dongila stepped out of their rooms. "Akachi, what's going on here?" stepmom asked, her voice sharp. "Mumsy, Gree is trying to escape," Akachi said, pointing frantically at the door. Just then, the lock clicked, and the door creaked open. I let out a breath of relief as the door finally swung open. Freedom was just a step away, but I hesitated for a split second, my heart racing as I heard Akachi scream from behind. "Mummy, she's opening the door." Freedom was just a step away, but I hesitated for a split second, my heart racing as I heard Akachi scream from behind. "Mummy, she's opening the door." Stepmom's footsteps quickened, her sharp voice slicing through the air. "Greater, if you step outside that door, you'll regret it." I didn't wait to hear more. I pushed the door wide open and bolted into the night, the cool breeze hitting my face like a rush of adrenaline. My legs moved faster than my thoughts. I didn't know where I was going, I just knew I had to get away from that house, from them. Behind me, I could hear Akachi shouting, "Catch her! Don't let her escape." "She can't escape. Chief's men are outside," stepmom said coldly. Just then, I bumped into someone and fell hard on my backside. "You think you can escape, huh?" a deep, masculine voice growled above me. "Not when Chief Odumadu is involved," the voice continued, sending a chill down my spine. "Let me go. Somebody help me," I screamed at the top of my lungs. I scrambled to my feet, ready to run again, but before I could get far, he grabbed me by the arms, dragging me roughly toward stepmom, Dungila, and Akachi. As soon as we reached them, stepmom slapped me so hard across the face that stars exploded in my vision. "You think you're smart, don't you?" she sneered. "What you don't realize is that I'm always a step ahead of you. Stupid girl." "Chief has changed his mind," the burly man gripping me said. "He's ordered that we bring her to him tonight." "Take her away. As long as the chief keeps his promises, I have no problem at all," stepmom said with a dismissive wave. "Please, don't take me to chief, I beg you. What about my education?" "Please, mother," I cried, dropping to my knees in front of her. "Please, mother." "I told you I am not your mother," she snapped, her eyes cold as she drove her foot into my stomach. I doubled over in pain, gasping for air as I collapsed to the ground. I was dragged to the car by chief men, just like a rag doll. I was tossed into the back seat of the car. Tears couldn't stop falling from my eyes. As the drive drove away, the drive to Chief Odumadu's house took some time. I wondered what my dad would say if he came back home and found me missing. We arrived at Chief Odumadu's house after a few hours of driving. Truth be told, Chief Odumadu's duplex was huge and elegant, with modern furniture. It looked more like a presidential villa. The gate opened on its own as the driver pulled in. He parked in the garage and motioned for me to get out. "Oya, come down." "We don reach," he said as I stepped out of the car. He led me inside the house, showed me to a room, and asked me to freshen up. As soon as he left, I rushed to the bathroom, hoping to find a way to escape, but I was disappointed. There was no way out. Sluggishly, I took my bath, got out, and started putting on my clothes. While dressing, something caught my eye, a phone on the dressing table. I hurriedly finished putting on my clothes and grabbed the phone. I slid it open, praying it wasn't locked. Luckily for me, it wasn't, and there was a SIM card inside. The phone looked brand new. I quickly typed in my dad's phone number. The phone began ringing immediately, and I pressed it to my ear. "Hello, Dad," I said as soon as he picked up. "Greatness, is that you?" he asked, recognizing my voice. "Yes, it's me, Daddy," I replied, tears already forming. "Are you crying, Princess?" he asked gently. "Dad, stepmom married me off to an older man," I said, waiting anxiously for his response. "I know, Greatness. You see, I borrowed money from Chief Odumadu and I couldn't pay it back. Now he's come to take you as collateral. I'm so sorry, my baby girl," he said. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt a sharp pain in my chest and a deeper sense of betrayal. Tears flowed freely from my eyes. "This is the last time you'll ever hear from me. I disown you as my father," I said, heartbroken, and ended the call. "This is the last time you'll ever hear from me. I disown you as my father," I said, heartbroken, and ended the call. Just then, Chief Odumadu stepped in, smiling like a fool. "You are so beautiful, my little wife," he said, walking toward me as I sat on the bed. I recoiled, moving backward, unable to bear the thought of his disgusting presence near me. He kept coming closer as I continued to inch away, until suddenly my back pressed against the wall. He reached me. "Me. I know you hate me, but unfortunately you're my wife now. As you can see, no one is on your side anymore, not even your father. I know you've already called him," he whispered, his hot breath brushing against my neck. "If you want to get back on your feet, you'll have to cooperate with me. But don't worry, I won't force you to do anything against your will." "What do you mean? And how do you know no one is on my side?" "I left that phone there for you. I bought it just for you. I knew you'd want to contact your father," he said smugly. Back to what I was saying. I won't force myself on you unless you willingly give yourself to me. If you can't do that, then you'll need to pay back all the money I spent to marry you." How much money, I asked, curious, but only because I'd rather die than give myself to him. 10 million naira, he replied with a wide grin. 10 million? Where am I supposed to get that kind of money, I asked, feeling panic rising inside me. Anywhere, he said casually, and mind you, every weekend you're expected to bring me 1 million. 1 million every weekend, I repeated, my voice shaky. Yes, and to help you, I'll give you a capital of 10,000 naira. You can sell whatever you want in the market, he said, then turned and left the room, leaving me drowning in despair. 1 week later, I started selling fruits in the market. The place was busy and business was moving along fine. With the little money I had in my savings, along with what Chief had given me, I decided to invest in selling fruits. I could have escaped from this life, right? I know I could have. But the Chief had made me sign some contracts, and there I was, stuck. As I was peeling some oranges, someone tapped me on the shoulder. I looked up and saw a man, clearly mad, his long beard dirty, his clothes torn and worn out. Despite his disheveled appearance, there was something striking about him. His cuteness was still evident. "Sister, help me. I'm starving." "I want some apples." "Apples," he said. I couldn't resist. I gave him an apple and a few oranges. He thanked me and left, but as soon as he walked away, something strange stirred inside me. "That is him," a voice echoed in my head, leaving me confused. Still lost in thought, something else happened. Later that night, on my way home, I felt someone following me. It was late. I had stayed back at the market to finish selling my peeled pawpaw and oranges. By the time I was done, the streets were quiet and dark. Chief had told me earlier, "You're just like my employees now. No special treatment unless you agree to sleep with me." I refused, so I decided to trek home since it was just a few streets away from the market. As I walked quickly through the dimly lit streets, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around and there he was, Dongila, my stepbrother, accompanied by a stranger with a sinister expression. "So you're the new market woman now, huh?" he sneered. "None of your business," I snapped back. "I've been watching you all day. Looks like you made a lot of money. People couldn't stop flocking to your fruit stall," he said with a twisted smile. "Dongila, or whatever you want to call yourself, I don't have time to stand in a dark street exchanging nonsense with you. What do you want?" "Haven't you and your family done enough to me already?" I shouted, my voice shaking with anger. Before I knew it, he slapped me hard across the face. The force of the slap made me see stars. I clutched my face in pain as he stepped closer, grabbing me by the neck and choking me. I gasped for air, struggling to breathe. "This is the last time you'll ever raise your voice at me. Now, give me all the money you made today," he demanded, his grip tightening. Unable to fight back, I reached into my pocket, pulled out the small bag where I had tied my earnings for the day, and handed it over to the stranger with him. Dongila finally let go, shoving me to the ground. I fell hard, tears stinging my eyes. Suddenly, a voice cut through the night. "Give her back her money, or I'll squeeze the life out of you." I looked up, and to my shock, it was the same madman I had seen earlier at the market, flanked by two other men who looked equally mad. "Get lost, madman, before I show you what I'm capable of," Dongila's friend threatened. The madman didn't flinch. His cold, unwavering gaze locked on Dongila and his friend. The two men standing beside him looked even more fearsome, their ragged clothes and wild eyes making them seem like they were straight out of a nightmare. For a moment, silence hung in the air, thick with tension. "Don't make me repeat myself," the madman growled, his voice low and dangerous. "Give her back the money." Dongila shifted uneasily. He was used to bullying me. He and his friends had always gotten their way. But something about the three men before him seemed off, as if they weren't just any street dwellers but people capable of real harm. "Let's go," Dongila muttered, trying to sound confident but failing. He gestured to his friend, who tossed the small bag of money on the ground beside me, not daring to meet the madman's eyes. Dongila gave me one last threatening look, but I could see fear creeping into his expression. "This isn't over," he spat before turning and walking away with his friend, their hurried footsteps fading into the night. I lay on the ground for a moment, still trying to catch my breath, my heart pounding in my chest. Slowly, I reached out for the money, my hands trembling. The madman and his companions hadn't moved. They just stood there, watching me. Finally, I managed to speak. "Thank you," I whispered, unsure whether I should be grateful or frightened. The madman crouched down in front of me, his rough features softening just a little. "People like him don't scare us," he said and laughed crazily. I nodded, still shaken. "Why did you help me?" He looked past me for a moment, his eyes distant, as if lost in thought. "Not everyone who looks lost is without a purpose," he muttered. Then he rose to his feet. The next day, I was busy attending to my customers in the market when I suddenly felt a hard slap across my cheek. Startled, I looked up to see my stepmom standing there, her face twisted in anger. "Madam, what happened? Why did you slap the girl like that?" one of my customers asked, stepping forward. "Wetin she do you slap her? You know she say she the sell market?" Another added. "What's your business?" "Did I slap you?" stepmom shot back, glaring at them. I turned to her, my eyes burning with frustration. "Ma, with all due respect, don't slap me again. What is it this time? What do you and your children really want from me? You've already ruined my life, so please just leave me alone," I shouted, my voice shaking with anger. "Oh, I see. Greater now has the courage to talk back to me, eh? You think you're growing wings to fly, but before you take off, I'll rip those wings right off," she sneered. "I can see you're becoming just like your PR0-stitute mother. After marrying Chief, you still went around sleeping with a filthy madman," she yelled, drawing the attention of passers-by. Some stopped in their tracks, watching the scene unfold. "You're embarrassing me, and you're causing a scene." "Please just leave my stall," I said firmly, trying to keep my composure. She raised her hand to slap me again, but this time I caught it in mid-air and without thinking, I slapped her back. The sound echoed through the market. I knew it wasn't right to slap an elder, but she had pushed me too far. "Iwo Iju Yua. Did you just slap me?" Gracie was surprised. "And I'll slap you again. If you didn't get out of my stall," I fumed. "This isn't over yet, this is just the beginning," she said and stride out of the stall. I apologized to my customers and continued with my sales. It was almost the weekend, and I hadn't even gathered up to 300,000, let alone ₦1,000,000 to repay Chief. I was sitting, peeling my oranges at first, but soon I stopped, lost in thoughts of how I would repay Chief's money. Just then, a voice jolted me back to reality. "Hi, pretty fruit seller, how much is your orange?" I heard a voice. I looked up to see a handsome, fair-skinned guy wearing glasses. "Good day, sir," I replied, and told him the prices of the oranges. "Okay, give me 500 naira worth," he ordered. I quickly took a nylon bag and packed the oranges for him. Once done, I handed it to him, but instead of giving me money, he passed me a check for 200,000 naira. I widened my eyes in shock but composed myself immediately. "Brother, this isn't my money. This is a check for 200,000 naira," I said, handing the check back to him. "I know, just keep it. I feel like supporting your business," he said. "You mean I should keep this money?" I asked, still in disbelief. "Yes, it's all yours," he said, and before I could respond, he disappeared into the crowd. I stood there, still holding the check in my hands, admiring it and silently thanking God for hearing my heart's cry when he stepped in front of my stall. The madman. "I'm hungry. I want to eat akpu and vegetable soup," he said. "Is that why you didn't even greet me today?" I teased him, but he wore a grumpy face. "What's wrong?" I asked, putting my hand in my bag to give him some money for his meal. "You shouldn't have accepted that check from that guy. He wants to take you away from me," he said, looking serious. I burst out laughing, handing him the money for food. "Look, he's not taking me anywhere. I'm right here with you," I replied. He took the money and disappeared into the crowd. I put the check in my bag and sat down to continue peeling oranges when Ngozi, the girl who sells next to my stall, came and sat beside me. "Hey, this thing between you and Agu, I hope you know who he is," she asked as soon as she sat down. "Who is Agu? And what do you mean?" I asked, confused. "Haha, so you don't even know his name? That notorious madman that just left here, his name is Agu. I've been in this market for over 5 years, and I've never seen Agu speak with anyone before, let alone be so familiar and calm with them. Agu is known for causing trouble, destroying things, and eating out of the dustbin. In fact, people are scared of him," she said. I was speechless, not knowing what to say. I sat there, stunned by what Ngozi had just said. Agu, a notorious madman? I couldn't reconcile that image with the man who had been visiting me for the past few weeks. He was rough around the edges, yes, but he never caused me any harm. "Wait, you mean that same man? The one who comes here almost every day?" I asked, still trying to process it all. Ngozi nodded, her eyes wide. "Yes, that's Agu. People in this market avoid him like the plague. They even fear him. But somehow you're different. He talks to you, and from what I've seen, he's calm around you." I didn't know what to say. Agu had always been quiet with me, asking for food or just standing nearby watching, but he never showed any signs of the behavior Ngozi described. As I sat in silence, lost in thought, Ngozi patted me on the back and got up. "Just be careful, Gray. You never know what's going on with people like him." I watched her walk away, her words lingering in my mind. I couldn't deny that Agu was unusual, but somehow I felt safe around him. Maybe it was just the way he looked at me with a kind of sadness in his eyes, like someone who had lost everything. Or maybe I was just trying to see the good in someone everyone else had written off.